Welcome. This is AgCom 2302, Scientific Communications in Agriculture and Natural Resources. So you're probably in the right place. Do keep in mind that on Blackboard, your professor will be listed under Dr. Kennedy, and I will be your instructor for this section. My name is Hannah Ford, but we'll get into introductions in just a moment. I'm going to make my face a little bit smaller so we can see the slide, which would be such a fun filter for everyday life to just shrink it like that. Today we're going to cover introductions. We're going to go over the course syllabus, some of the assignments, and hopefully clear up any questions that you might have. We're going to talk about why we communicate and how we communicate, and then how that applies to agriculture and maybe some of the specific industries that we are wanting to get into in this class. Let's be honest, 2020 was, it was a year. It was a year for all of us. I would be shocked if any person in this class were to say that they haven't been affected by COVID in some way, primarily negative. But there is a lot going on in this university to ensure that we can be in the classroom, that we can be together, that we can have engagement. So we're going to follow those policy rules and make sure that we're keeping each other safe and we're keeping ourselves safe. And we'll go over some of those policies that we're going to cover in a moment as well. But I think we have a really cool opportunity for this spring semester. It's going to be unique, but I'm hopeful that we will have a great semester, that we're going to have some camaraderie, that we're going to have some specific discussion and engagement in class, and we're going to walk away learning something. So our teaching assistant for this class is Miss Mackenzie. Here's some information about her past, about her work experiences, research interests, and a little fun fact, but I figure who better to introduce Mackenzie than herself. So here is a little clip.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie Neves, and I'm a current master's student here at Texas Tech studying agricultural communications, and I will be your TA for this semester. A little bit about me: I did my undergraduate studies at California State University, Sacramento, and received my BA in Communication Studies, Public Relations, and received a minor in Global Engagement and Leadership. I also took a gap year between finishing my undergraduate studies and starting my master's here at Tech, and got to work as a leadership consultant, traveling to different college campuses all over the country. If you need me at all this semester, I'm located in room 209 and am happy to help you if you reach out to me via email beforehand.
Mackenzie is really a great addition to this course, and I'm excited for the insight and the feedback that she's going to bring y'all this semester. So as we move forward, I will just introduce myself to you. I'm sure you're wondering who I am, why I'm here, and why you should listen. So I received my agricultural communications undergraduate degree here at Texas Tech when I was in this department, in this building. Our building did not have hot running water. So there's been a few changes and updates to the building. Since then, it looks awesome. I did my master's at Mississippi State University in agricultural extension and education. If that sounds familiar, it's probably because you are a Dallas Cowboys fan or have ever heard the name Dak Prescott. He was Mississippi State. Some of my work experiences: I've worked in a funeral home writing obituaries. That contributes to my unique writing style, which is the nicest way one of my professors put it one time. I did food label research in Rome, Italy for a few months. I looked at some of the verbiage and the language that was used on labels in grocery stores throughout Rome for dairy, meats, and vegetables, and then compared them to some of the language that we used here in the United States. I worked for Textron Aviation in Wichita, Kansas for Government and Special Missions Division. So we worked with the Royal Jordanian Air Force, we worked with Egypt, we worked with the UK, Japan, to buy and sell some aircraft, Cessna Beechcraft and Hawker specifically, and so it was a really neat position, and I got to fly in $15 million jets. I was able to fly an airplane. I did not land it. I would not have done that successfully. And after that, I worked for the Computer Science for Mississippi grant in Starkville, where I went for my master's, and we looked to get some of those rural schools interested in coding and computer science. I worked for the Agricultural Economics Department there at Mississippi State as a marketing coordinator. My boss was a huge contributor to the 2013-2014 Farm Bill, and so I got some insight on lobbying and policy making, and that was really interesting. And then I ended up at the Fort Worth Zoo as a public relations coordinator, which we'll look at in just a moment. My major research interest is food insecurity, the facets of our society that it plays in economically, quality of life and education is too much for me sometimes, and so I would love to study global food insecurity, but I'm really looking on the community level to make a difference. And fun fact, Baker Mayfield was my upstairs neighbor in college. That's all I have to say about that. So here is a video from my time at the Fort Worth Zoo, and just a little insight into my portfolio. So yeah, that was just one of the projects that I worked at the Fort Worth Zoo. This is another one. This is more of an aesthetic TikTok, Instagram video that gave our followers in 2020 a break from all the seriousness and heavy things that were happening in the year politically, health-wise. They came to social media for a release a lot, especially in quarantine. So we like to come up with really interesting things for them to watch. We had, this was a little bit before quarantine, but our rhino, Davy Crockett, chose his pick for the Super Bowl winner, and he did not choose our Pat Mahomes, and so he and I were on a little bit of rocky terms for a bit, but we've reconciled. And then one of the viral trends that we did during quarantine was where you take an animal throughout the zoo and you let them meet other animals. This is Hector, our Patagonian Mara, meeting our otters, our American river otters, and they were so excited. They're pretty curious creatures, and so I'm not sure if he was terrified or very, very excited. Maybe a little bit of a mixture. A few more fun facts about me. And keep in mind, I will use examples from the zoo a lot in some of our concepts in class, just because there's some fun videos and stories that go along with it, and sometimes it's helpful for me to remember important things in class by attaching them to a personal story or a funny story. This is Milo. He is my golden retriever. He is named after the sorghum and not the movie. I've actually never seen Milo and Otis. I've watched less than 100 movies in my lifetime. I enjoy crime podcasts, though, Crime Junkie in particular. I was on the Italian news in a documentary actually when I was in Rome, and I didn't know exactly what was happening until I watched the footage after, but they were seeking the most tourist-looking human in the area, and that was me. I do like to be outdoors, but I like there to be a purpose. So I like to go to Prairie Dog Village and feed them carrots and sunflower seeds, and they're chubby and they scream at each other, and I love it. But I almost died my first time hiking. It was actually in the same day that I was on an Italian news documentary. We went on an 8-mile hike with the lead hiker. He created the trail by hand. And so now, especially now that we're near Palo Duro, people will be like, hey, do you want to go in a dangerous part of land with no real destination and just walk for a while? No, I do not. I would rather watch a movie. Let's look at the course overview. And our major thing is just finding the building. Some of you, this is your first semester on campus. Some of you, it's your second. Some of you, this might be your final year and you know exactly where we are, but we are on the corner of Detroit Avenue and 15th Street. So right across from 15th Street, a little bit catty corner, is the sub. So you can basically walk right through that pergola gazebo concrete structure between the sub and 15th Street, and you'll be walking straight towards the Ag Ed and AgCom building. Another point of reference is Stengel Murdo in this corner, especially if you're a freshman in Ag and you live there. We're very close. We do ask, though, that you enter on 15th Street in one of these two entrances. So if you're coming from the sub, that's going to be the easiest way. And enter the classroom through one of these 3 doors, and then we'll exit out of these 2, walk down the hallway, and create a cyclical flow of the department buildings. If you need to go upstairs and come see me in 211, you are welcome to. I'll be there every day between 8 a.m. and noon. Keep in mind, it's pretty cramped, which is why I have so many Zoom office hours, so you can feel comfortable and not have to be in such a tight environment. And it, especially if it's a matter that you don't want other people to hear, that's way more of a private time and space. So we will follow TTU COVID policies. I know masks aren't fun. I've not met a single person that just truly enjoys wearing masks, except for the one that I got with Milo's face on it. But in the buildings and in the classrooms, we will be wearing masks. When I teach, I will be wearing a face shield, so you can see me and you can see my lips to read them, and my facial expressions and body language, because it's such an important part of communication. But in between, even from the classroom back to my office, I will be wearing a mask, and we will follow that throughout the entire semester until Texas Tech says otherwise. You will only come to class on your assigned day, and at this point we are at max capacity for our course, and so we do not have wiggle room to move around days. And so I'm sorry if you feel like you might have gotten the short end of the stick of, maybe you got Friday or Monday, but just keep in mind that in a normal semester you would be coming every day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so we're getting a good break this semester in terms of in-person class time, and I don't have a ton for you to do on Blackboard, even though I do have something every week. And so we're cutting you some slack in some other areas, so just make sure that you come to class and get that engagement and discussion in person that I think we're all so desperately craving in this time of isolation. To just know you only come on your assigned day, and if you check out Blackboard or the end of your syllabus, you'll know what group you're assigned in. So the 4 things that you need to remember for this semester in particular is always bring a device to class. We all have at least one. If it's a cell phone, not a Razr, more like a smartphone, a tablet or computer that can connect to the Wi-Fi in the classroom or cellular data. Specifically, Kahoot will be using for some in-class engagement and also to take attendance. Attendance is not graded, but we'll speak in a minute, or I will speak in a minute. You will listen. about how attendance isn't graded, but you're going to benefit from coming into class rather than doing this online. You will have assigned seats. We're following COVID protocol, and we need to record participation in class to see if someone felt sick and they came to class and didn't know it, at the time, that we could tell the people around them that they may have been, at risk. Stay on top of due dates. There is something due every week in class, but it is consistent, so you're really never having to worry except for keeping up with those assignment dates. You will have a quiz due every week in class, Saturday at midnight, so you never have to question if there is one. And most of all, ask for help. We do not know if you are struggling. If you don't come to us and ask for help. That's what we're here for. We're here for feedback. We're here for your improvement, and we're here as a resource. So I really want you to utilize the time that we have sectioned for you, and reach out if you're needing support or help. We can find you resources, or we can come up with a game plan to really make sure you succeed. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. That huge syllabus that I sent through email, I know it was massive and it was full of detail, and you were looking at it and going, what on earth did I sign up for in this spring? But I promise it was detailed and full for a reason, because I don't want there to be any questions. I really want you to feel confident and prepared for this class. So know that when you come to class each week, we do have an agenda. The 3 major things that we're going to cover is our weekly PowerPoint lesson. So this week, it's virtual. We're going to do a grammar, spelling, and punctuation Kahoot review game, and this is going to prepare you for that weekly quiz each Saturday. There's going to be a few things on that weekly quiz from your other folders, but the majority of it is going to be the grammar, spelling, and punctuation, and we're going to review it in class every week. So if you're coming to class, you're going to be prepared for that quiz. And the final thing is participation and discussion. I want this to be an engaging course. I want you to get something out of it. And I want you to connect with the people that are in your classroom, because networking is one of the biggest advantages of coming to in-person college, in spring 2021, or really at any point in time. And so in-person participation and discussion will be recorded, and there will be points attached. Now, that being said, we're in the middle of a pandemic. So, if you ever feel sick, do not come to class. There are mental wellness days built in to the university. So if you are ill, or if you feel ill, or if you think you might have been in contact with someone who is ill, or if there's a university holiday, you will do the virtual week that week. And what that virtual week consists of is a makeup video lesson. So it'll be similar to this. Know that it will be about 30 or 40 minutes long. I'm going to cover the same amount of information in class that I do on the video, so it's not going to be, you're not going to miss out on anything if you do have to go virtual that week. But there is a few extra things that you'll have to do to make up, and we'll talk about that. There's a grammar, spelling, punctuation lesson PowerPoint. I want you to get the same information that we're doing in the review in class to prepare you for that quiz each week, but it's going to have to be on your own time if you're on virtual. And the third thing is a discussion post. And so the prompts for engagement and discussion that we're using in class, I think, really contribute to the learning outcomes that are stated at the beginning of the syllabus. And so if you don't come to class, you'll have an online video, online grammar and spelling, punctuation PowerPoint, and then you will have to do that discussion post instead of the engagement that we have in class. So if you come to class, we will record your attendance, and you won't have to do that discussion post, but if you virtual, you will. There are 3 weekly folders each week. I try to keep it simple. There's a read, a watch, and a do. Sometimes they're going to be in a different order. I suggest you always complete them in chronological order. Sometimes the watch is first, sometimes read is first. I'll let y'all know we don't have a textbook for this class, and we're not doing a huge amount of content online, but the small amount of content that I put on here, if you come to class or if you don't come to class, I'm really going to need you to look through, because it's important. It's not going to be long, but the video and possibly journal article or blog post that I attach to every week's lesson will be in your due folders quiz at the end of the week, every week. So everything that we're talking about will be covered in that quiz. If you're paying attention, you're coming to class and you're looking at the 15 minutes of content that I have for you each week, you're going to succeed. So, just as a recap for Blackboard, every week. So everyone, if you come to class, or if you don't come to class, you'll have a supporting video, a supporting article, and your weekly quiz. Then you'll have any of the additional scheduled assignments for that week. That's the introduction email, the resume, the cover letter. And if you come to class, that's all you have to do on Blackboard. But if you don't come to class, you're also going to have that weekly lesson video, your GSP lesson, and that discussion post to do. And that's a little bit further explained in your syllabus. Our grading policy is a little bit rough. Within 24 hours of the due date, that's 50% of your grade, and then after 24 hours, it's a 0. And this is because in the industry and in communications, and I know you'll hear this all the time, you're like, well, jobs don't have leniency, they won't let you turn in work late. They will. They will. If you go to your boss and you say, I'm behind, he's going to say, okay, have it on my desk by tomorrow afternoon. So he's going to give you 24 hours to do it. But in my opinion, that lowers his confidence score or her confidence score of your rapport in the business a little bit. And so we're going to take 50% off. And then after 24 hours, the assignment's going to be a 0. So the things that we're focusing on in this semester is timeliness. We want you to get those things in on time, and we're going to give you the resources to do it. We're going to give you a lot of feedback. I'm excited about Mackenzie's feedback in particular, especially with the experiences and the education that she has under her belt. We're going to improve your writing, and it may be the confidence in your writing. If you're already a fantastic writer, we're going to, recap some of those grammar, spelling, and punctuation things that you already know and make you more comfortable with them. And if you are a new writer, as are a lot of college students, we're going to get you on the path to improving your writing with every assignment. And then at the end, you're going to walk away with some portfolio documents that you can immediately apply to a job, or even if you're applying for grad school, you're going to have something tangible that you can walk away with after this class. So I know that grading schedule is rough, and I know it's not fun to not have that much leniency, but I did build in a few things for you to make up those points if you need them. So let's talk about this just very briefly. Most of your assignments in this class are worth 50 points. Your weekly discussion and participation points that you can either get in class or on that virtual discussion post each week are 15 points apiece. There's 13 of them, but you do have one due this week. Your introduction post, there's a few prompts. It's very simple for 5 points, and it's due this Saturday, January 23rd at midnight. Same thing with your weekly quizzes. You have 13 weeks, 15 points apiece, except for this Saturday. There's a 5-point syllabus quiz. You can print out your syllabus, or you can have it in a separate tab. It's due at midnight, or 11:59 p.m. technically. There's a few minutes of leniency there, I promise. And then the first 4 projects in your semester are worth 50 points apiece, and these are going to be your business communication projects. The midterm is going to be over the content that we covered in those first 4 or 5 weeks. And then in the second half of the semester, we're going to focus more on scientific communication and science communication. So we're doing a blog post, an article, evaluation from an academic journal, an audience analysis, and a social media schedule. Notice that your score in this class is out of 1,000 points, and so a 900 is an A. I have built in 100 extra points, and so I know my grading is a little bit harsh, and so I have given you some leniency, 100 points, an entire letter grade. So if you drop the ball on one assignment, don't panic, don't drop the course. We're going to be fine. We're going to work through it. And as always, communicate. if you need help. I just wanted to go over the fact that February 26th, March 19th, and April 5th are all university scheduled holidays. And so if you are in the Friday or Monday group during those days, you will go virtual that week. I suggest you start, if you are going virtual on those weeks, start the course on Sunday when it opens, and you don't even have to worry about it the rest of the week. The last day of classes scheduled for the university is May 4th, and so I actually have the last week of classes for an optional in-class final review. So if you are happy with your grade, and you will get your grades before final reviews, or before the final review, if you are happy with your grade by April 25th, that Sunday, then you don't have to come to class and you're done for the semester. You don't even have to come to class for the last 2 weeks of the scheduled courses. And so hopefully that's a good trade. So we're going to look at communication in 2 parts. We're going to hop into a lesson this week, and I know it's first week and we should only look at syllabus and then y'all get to leave, but since we're doing virtual and we have time to cover a lesson, we're going to, especially just for an introduction. So the first half of our semester, like we talked about, is professional development. That is my favorite SpongeBob episode, by the way. We're going to look at email etiquette, resume, cover letter, and a how-to project. The how-to project is going to be a really fun either podcast or video, and we'll talk about some resources later in the semester that you can use that are free. But here is something that I think public education really failed me on when I went through high school and even in the beginning of college. Is there are some very basic skills that are not taught to us. And that is, doing our taxes. That is sometimes email etiquette, how to create a resume, what kind of language they're using, or, even encouraging in cover letters in your specific industries. And this may be absolutely old information to some of y'all. If it is, we're going to refine your documents and really get them ready to turn in somewhere. If this, like many people, is your first experience with some of these things truly in an educational setting, we're going to give you a foundation moving forward to grow on your professional journey, and we are always here as resources even after this class ends. So the second thing we're going to do is communicate information, and I know it's very easy to avoid. So we are going to focus in this semester on some harder topics of a scientific blog post, determining that audience for some of your projects, a scientific journal evaluation, specifically an academic article, and a social media schedule to end it on a little bit of a lighter note. That final exam that's optional could hop your grade a letter grade, so just keep that in mind. These are the expected outcomes that are listed in your syllabus, but we'll just graze over them. Grammar, spelling, and punctuation is going to be huge. We're going to give feedback, and we're going to make you better writers. That is the goal, and that is the expected outcome, but you're only going to get as much out of this that you put into it. So we will give honest and critical feedback, but hopefully constructive, on the projects and papers that you turn in. But if you're not putting effort into it, the only thing that we're grading is, your low energy. And I know we've had those weeks, and I know last semester might have been that, but we're really going to try and focus and keep you engaged this semester, so you're really getting something out of this experience, and the money that you're putting into this university, we want you to walk away with something. So we're going to develop some documents, again, tangible, that you can walk away with. Learn to recognize, evaluate, and summarize academic resources and popular press. This may be something that you utilize a lot in your college experience, is just trying to figure out how to break down an academic article is just the basis of research, and we'll tackle that. We'll analyze audience traits. That's a little bit of a fun assignment. I'm looking forward to it. And then we'll will look to plan to effectively communicate some of this evidence to the public. You can do as much research as you want, but if you're not getting that information out afterward, then your outcomes are useless. We need to be able to tell other people what we find out. So what is communication? Merriam-Webster lists it as a process by which information is exchanged between individuals through a common system of symbols, signs, or behavior. So it's not just speaking and it's not just writing. This is body language. This is hieroglyphics. This is images, hand signals. And I know through masks, body language and facial expressions have been limited a little bit. So our communication has been limited in this past year, and human nature adapts, but it's been difficult. And then this quote is actually from Mr. Austin Moore's class this last semester. He taught it, and I really enjoyed it. It says the two words information and communication are often used interchangeably, but they signify quite different things. Information is giving out, and communication is getting through. So if you're not communicating effectively, the information that you're giving out is not being received. But we'll talk about a communication model right now. So the Shannon-Weaver model of communication, and I know it looks a little bit messy, but this is transmitting information, communicating it from one person to the other. And what you're looking at is broken down complexities of a discussion. So let's say that you are the sender on this far left. Your posture is questionable, but we won't count it against your body language. And you are sending a message to the receiver on the other end. Sometimes this message is not intentional. Sometimes it's not spoken word. Sometimes it is a weird body language, or it's waving. You are encoding a message into the transmission of your communication. So sometimes the noise gets in the way, and that may be other people, that may be the emotional state or mental state of the receiver. There's a lot of noise that can happen in between. If it's a crowded place, if it's the mask is the noise. But this receiver has to decode your message and receive it. And sometimes we all played telephone in elementary school, or at least most of us did, where there's a line of people and I come up with a sentence and I whisper it to the next person and so on. Very, very COVID unfriendly. But the very last person often has a different message than the first person. And that's a visual representation of, we're encoding messages, but there's lots of noise, and sometimes the information is not getting to the receiver. The best example I can think of this is I am so terrible at waving at people that aren't waving at me. They're looking straight over my head at someone else, and I really had to learn how to eat crow and put my ego to the side in those moments and just think about them later at 3 a.m. 4 years, in the future. But, maybe we've all sent a text message of, we've all sent a text message that in the moment may have had a lot of emotion and things behind it. And the message that we were encoding wasn't decoded by the other person. There was some miscommunication. Maybe we didn't add enough emojis or, punctuation, or maybe your mother sends the letter K and you just never know what it means. But that may be a personal experience. But regardless of this message and the transmission and the noise, we need to look at who is talking. So in scientific communication, that's scientist to scientists mainly, and maybe agriculturist to agriculturist, or farmers to farmers if they're talking about something, and the producers and production methods. So this is also scholarly journals. This is scientific and science academies, and this is government agencies. It's highly structured, the things that we're talking about, especially when and this is specifically when we're talking about scientific issues and topics. And then there's the science communication, and I like this image of, that's probably similar to what I looked like when I was writing my thesis and had all of my resources. I was probably balding like that too from stress, but the engagement is what's important, of really getting on that person's level and speaking to them where they're at. And that's the importance of communication versus information, like we talked about in the definition. It's indirect, it's narrative driven. And this is your press, your radio, your TV, newspapers. I mean, we all know the types of media that we receive information from. Blogs and podcasts, which we will cover in our second semester. And then your organizational newsletters. Maybe if you're local, it's the Plains Cotton Growers, or maybe if you're in it from a different state, it's the Angus Association, the Black Angus. But those organizational newsletters are science communication. This is also politicians and marketing teams and the influencers, the Peterson brothers, some of those bloggers that are agricultural specific. And this is one of my favorite images. We have to make science communication, so talking to the public, flashy, because science sometimes isn't, and it may not always be interesting, but the information is so important that we have to jazz it up in order to get people interested. Does science communication matter in agriculture, specifically where we're at? This meme, I cannot even tell you how old this meme is, but I often connect funny stories and memes and GIFs and videos, like I said, to these concepts so we remember them. But I think there's such a gap, not only between the communication that scientists are trying to reach farmers with, especially regarding technology, and even between our farmers and ranchers and producers and their consumer base. And so science communication matters. We need to bridge that gap. We can do that between two things. There's business communications in ag, and this is your everyday functioning within all industries and all businesses. This is getting hired and hiring, which are four first assignments. This is internal and external. So if you're a producer and you have people working on your farm or your ranch, this is a safety and procedures that need to be communicated to the workers to make sure everybody's safe, and just even communication of what needs to go on in your day-to-day productivity. It's external for some businesses. Maybe they have clients or stakeholders that are really interested in, watching and improving progress. The policymakers, and especially the general public. That is where our public opinion comes in. The organizational, the membership and policymakers are important, but that public opinion is so key. They don't realize how much power they have, the consumers of, especially hot topics of GMOs, organic. What's another hot topic in agriculture right now that I can think of? Cloning, and maybe even in lab meat production, trying to reduce agriculture's not very big carbon footprint. The public opinion is what drives. They vote in their policymakers, and the policymakers answer back to them. And sometimes our general public is passing laws that affect our farmers and ranchers without even really knowing the families or the science behind it. So that public opinion is so important. And then science communication in ag is a little bit more fun and flashy, like we talked about. This is what influences that public opinion. And so mommy bloggers are one of the biggest driving forces of consumer education and information. As much as that's not my favorite fact in the world, it is what it is. And so we need to find who is influencing those public opinions and get to them. Address those policy concerns, which is often hand in hand with public opinion. Secure reputation or funding, and that's often happening in academia. That's how we fund a lot of our professors and our GAs and our TAs, is some of that grant money. Inspire innovation. I don't know if anybody knows this, but the creator of Lunchables and one of the major contributors of the Slim Jim are alumni of the Department of Animal and Food Sciences here at Texas Tech University, and they contribute a lot of their educational foundation and their success to our department and our college and the things that we teach inside here. So we're really making a difference and inspiring innovation in so many different facets through ag, instilling best practices, and then just fulfilling the duty of science. Like I said, we can learn all of the things in the world, but if we don't have a way to communicate that information, then it's stagnant. I think of The Giver. If anyone read that book, it's like two people in this, otherwise perfect community have all the memories of the world and in history and all this knowledge and wealth, and there's like no way to communicate that to everybody around them, and so it's almost worthless. So wrapping up this week's goals, at the end of Saturday, you should have been through the Read, Watch, Do folders, whatever chronological order that they're in. Check your in-class day assignment because classes do start next week in class. And by Saturday at midnight, you should have completed your syllabus quiz and your introduction post. So it's not a huge, heavy week. Thank you for tuning in. This is going to be an average length and segment of our online lectures if you do go virtual, because we are covering so much content in one class session. So you will not miss out on any information if you do go virtual, but know that it's a little bit more laborious with your video and your discussion posts and teaching yourself that grammar review. So I hope to see you in class as much as possible. I'm very excited about next week. And if you have any questions in the meantime, go to my email or go to my syllabus and you know where to find me. So we will see you soon.